One of the laws that were assented to by President William Ruto on the 15th of October 2025 is the Land Amendment Law of 2024. And this law introduces various aspects of laws that are going to affect the land transactions here in Kenya, the rates to be paid, and even the conversion of property here in Kenya. The biggest of those changes is the conversion of property from freehold to leasehold properties. And this is going to be a process led by the county governments here in Kenya. And this is a process they will follow for them to do the conversion of property. They will zone the areas, and then after zoning these areas, they will do a Gazette advertisement. And after doing the Gazette advertisement, they will give you two items. Item number one is the period you need for you to convert your property. And period number two is the money you need to pay for you to be able to convert this property. And therefore, after they zone those areas, they will indicate the areas that needs to be converted from freehold to 99 years leasehold title. And therefore, that will be led by the county government here in Kenya, and they will follow the process of conversion. Some of the payments that you will pay when doing the conversion of title here in Kenya, number one is something we call the stamp duty, and this stamp duty will be paid on the value of that property. Number two is something we call the registration fee, and number three is something we call the ground rent. And after paying the ground rent, remember, ground rent is an amount that you can ignore. Is right now is a very negligible amount, because you have an acre somewhere and they're asking you to pay a ground rent of about 2,000 per year. Therefore, that is a negligible amount. Then the other amount that you need to pay is the survey fee, and this one is to help you with the deed plan, the ones that will be used for the new survey plans, and the ones that will be used for the conversion of these titles. And therefore, this process will be led by the county government, and this county government will ensure that they zone these areas. I can predict the areas that will be affected, because they are targeting the urban areas, the semi-urban areas, and some of these areas that can be mentioned is number one, a place called Ruiru, Naivasha, most areas in Kiambu, Ngong, Kajiado, Kilifi. All those areas that are next to a bigger town, most of those areas will be affected, and those freehold titles will be converted into a leasehold title. One of the key factors of why they want these titles to be converted to leasehold property is because when you convert a property into a leasehold property, you are able to pay a second tax, because when you have a freehold property, you only pay one tax, that is the rate. And if you convert that, then you get to attract another tax that is called the rent, and this rent is paid to the government, and the government will do something to ensure that you pay a specific and a good amount on this property. Number one is that they are changing the law to ensure that they revalue these properties to attract new rent, taking care of the current what we call economical times. And therefore, they will change the valuation of that property, and that property will start attracting new rent, and this rent will be higher than what you are paying right now. Let's give an example. If you have a property in Ruiru and you are paying 2,000, they might be able to add this amount to around 5,000 per year. And remember, this amount is not a lot of money, but the moment you do not pay that amount, then this amount start attracting something we call penalties, and these penalties and interest is what make it very expensive. And therefore, you must be very keen when they give that advertisement and they say that we have zoned a certain area, you do the conversion of that property as soon as possible for you not to attract the penalties. Remember, if they give you 6 months for you to do the conversion, that area, the whole of that area will start attracting rent. And if you do not pay rent within the period they have given, then when you come to convert your property 2 years after they had advertised, they will go back to the time they started advertising, and you will pay that rent with the penalties. And therefore, you need to be very keen, and I will be here to update you when they zone these areas. I will let you know so that you can convert your property, and that property can be converted into a leasehold property. The reason why this is being encouraged is to turn some of this idle land. You find someone with 2,000 acres, 20 acres, five acres somewhere in Ruiru, in Ngong, and this person is not using that property. That property is just laying there idle. So the government is encouraging the conversion of these properties and to increase the rent so that you can feel the pinch and allow other people to develop that property so that you can get the money to pay the rent to the government. And therefore that is something that is being encouraged by the government. The other thing that this law will come to change is something we call the registration system here in Kenya. As you know, we have already started going digital with land records here in Kenya. So this law is coming to enhance that and ensure that we get a complete digital registry for land registry. Just like the way we transfer motor vehicle, it will be so easy for you to transfer land in Kenya. You can do a sale agreement today and be able to transfer that property to the other person today after paying the stamp duty, and after paying for the consent, you will be able to transact that property within a day or two, and you will get your new title to the new owner. And therefore that registration system, that is something to look into and know whether it is something good or it is something that will affect the transactions here in Kenya. Remember, when we streamline the registration system here in Kenya, we are going to reduce two things. We are going to reduce something we call fraud, and we are going to reduce delay, and we are going to reduce the third one is something we call disputes that touches on land. And therefore this is a good law according to me. It is going to change a lot of things and it is going to affect a lot of properties, but these things are supposed to be like that so that we can now start turning some of these agricultural properties into residential property and into commercial property, things that can give us money and can allow us to continue trading and doing businesses here in Kenya. So if you have a freehold property somewhere in Naivasha town, somewhere in Ruiru town, somewhere in Ngong, somewhere in Kajiado, somewhere in Kilifi, wait, because the government is coming after you and they will zone that area and tell you to convert that property into a leasehold property, 99 years, so that you can start paying them rent and you can use that property for economical activities. And therefore that is what is happening, and this is not the first time we are discussing this. There is a case that was decided in Kajiado Law Court, and this case is called Sheria Mtaani and another versus Kajiado County Assembly, and this case decided that government cannot be able to charge rent on a freehold property. They must first of all allow the person to convert the property into a leasehold property for them to be able to charge the rent on that property. And I believe this is the case that has informed the government to ensure that it regulates the issues of conversion of property from freehold to leasehold property, especially for areas within the township, for them to be able to charge this rent that they are calling. Some of the laws that will be affected by this amendment is, number one, something we call the Valuation for Rating Act. That is the Rating Act, and that Rating Act will be affected because I have told you they have to increase the rates and they have to increase the rent on that property. Number two is the Land Registration Act, the Land Act, and any other principal act. Most of them will be affected by this amendment, and they will ensure that they change the way we are doing our things in terms of the land transactions here in Kenya. And therefore we are really waiting to see how the regulations will come out, so that we can be able to know whether we will go to court to challenge the regulations, whether the amount that will be charged will be exorbitant, or the amount that cannot be able to be paid by a common mwananchi. But this is to let you know that all the foreigners who have a freehold property, from now going on, they will not be able to transact on that property until they convert that property to a leasehold property, so that we can give effect to the Constitution of Kenya, where all the foreigners in Kenya are not allowed to own freehold property. Remember, freehold property should only be held by a citizen of this nation for them to do the agricultural activity, and that is the reason why we are saying that they will not be able to proceed with any transaction if you are a foreigner and you hold a freehold property here in Kenya, you will not be able to transact. You cannot sell, you cannot charge, you cannot transfer that property to any other person until you convert that property into a leasehold property. And therefore, this is one of the laws that was signed by President William Ruto on the 15th of October 2025, affecting how we do the land transactions here in Kenya. My name is Nderu. For this and more, continue following us, subscribing, and even letting us be known by some of your friends.